Hello guys, I'm the maildartfrog and welcome to Scrap News. Today we'll go over the Q&A post that was just released by the developers of Scrap Mechanic. The video will be split into several parts with timestamps just like the Q&A post itself. Let's get started. We got to know some cool information about the progress on Chapter 2. The devs aren't sure yet when it will be ready, unfortunately. They don't want to commit to a deadline yet too, because that could mean they would have to cut corners and make the update not quite as good as they would want to. They said they are working on it as fast as they can though, and that it, quote, could be later this year or next year. We also got to know that Chapter 2 is roughly 50% complete now, and that we will hear about it in the devlogs while it's being developed. I know that this may sound like it's going rather slowly, however not only is the chapter going to be huge, they were also working on their game engine along the content this entire time. This is something I will touch upon more later in the video. Chapter 2 will also include a lot more story elements, and the end of it will, quote, answer a lot of questions. Another really cool thing to hear is that Axolot is planning to develop Scrap Mechanic for as long as there are people playing it. This means that, similarly to Minecraft, the game will be getting new content even after official full release. Speaking of full release, once Scrap Mechanic leaves the early access status on Steam, Axolot wants to bring the game to consoles as well. They're even already doing some prep work for it. This could also mean that the end of early access is way closer than we think. This is just my personal prediction, but I think we could expect it within the next few years, probably not more than 4 or so. For now, Scrap Mechanic still has quite a few problems though, and probably one of the biggest one is the physics lag. In the Q&A, the devs went quite deep into how the physics in Scrap Mechanic are done, and what they are doing to try and make them better. In short, they are currently digging really deep into the physics engine of the game to improve it. They said however that this is something that will take a lot of work, so they will fully dig into it once Chapter 2 is out. You can see that they had already done some work on it in the form of the simple physics setting, as it has been improving greatly throughout the test versions of the last update. Axolot is also aware of multiplayer issues and is currently working on improvements. And speaking of changes to the physics engine, we also got confirmation that the famous suspension glitch will most likely stay with us for good, as it's a core problem of the physics engine itself that the game is using. This is of course both a good and a bad thing depending on the kind of player you are. I am personally quite happy to know it's going to stay. We also got to know a ton of stuff about upcoming content. We will most likely be getting a survival-sized creative mode map, we will be getting a weather system with stuff like clouds for example, possibly as soon as the next chapter. Mod support will be extended greatly. There won't be a daylight sensor coming, however an alarm clock will fit the same purpose. We will most likely not get larger wheels unfortunately, but we are gonna be getting a larger selection of wheels in general, and they will all have different properties. We had a look at one of them in the last devlog actually, where a sticky wheel was shown off. We will be getting enhanced aerial and aquatic physics and parts in the future. In fact, we will be getting an entire chapter centered around aquatic and aerial adventures. This is something I'm really looking forward to myself. Another thing that I've been really looking forward to are dedicated servers. And while they said it will be tricky, because of large amount of requests, Axolot say they will be looking into it. And that might be a possibility if the players were to host it themselves. I personally think that letting the players host it themselves is completely fine, if not even the best possible approach to it honestly, as third-party services could offer server hosting for Scrap Mechanic similar to how it's done with Minecraft. Axolot might also look into merch in the future, which is great news. A glowbug plushie for example would be amazing in my opinion. They also told us to send them ideas for different kinds of merch, so if you have something that you would love to see in form of Scrap Mechanic merch, leave a comment on the Steam post with the Q&A. We will also be able to use the indoor grow bed to grow plants, possibly have the wheels not slide as much, and we will still be getting the exosuit that was shown off a while ago. Automation is planned to be improved, creative mode might get a health option, one of the totals will be ocean based, we should be able to cut down bushes, challenge mode is going to get bots, and we will also get achievements once the game leaves early access. Draggable wedges are close to being done. The big problem about them right now is what happens when you pick them up. We might get to see them in the next devlog however. We might also be getting a spot gun reload animation, a special type of a block that is destroyed on impact, gears might be added into the game, and we might still be getting the spot gun customization that was shown off a while back. This one however might only come back later and is not planned for anytime soon. Keep in mind the might part in that sentence though. Those are things that Axolot isn't sure about yet. The scrapyard biome shown off a while ago is also put on hold now, as devs took the story of the game in a different direction. It might still come back in the future though, as they still have a lot of great ideas for the setting. In Chapter 2, we will most likely get to keep playing on our current survival worlds without missing out on anything. Axolot also shared their approach to game exploits, which I personally really love. Basically, if players enjoy exploiting the game and find it fun, the devs won't limit this. We also got to know about some internal details about the game's development. Scrap Mechanic actually started out as a potential Xbox port of Minecraft back in 2011, but Mojang never ended up partnering with Axolot on it. The team working on Scrap Mechanic has grown from 3 people back in 2016 to 12 people now. The game surpassed the developers' expectations by a lot when it was first released. Now it's time for the game engine development thing that I mentioned before when I said that Chapter 2 is only around 50% done so far. You see, Axolot Games is a rather small studio, and Scrap Mechanic is an extremely ambitious game. A game that requires a custom engine to be just right. Over the past years of development, Axolot has been working on both the game content and the game engine at the same time, which is something that really makes things slow. Valve, the company behind Steam, the Portal series, or the Half-Life series for example, was doing a similar thing back in the day with Half-Life 2, where they were developing their game engine alongside their game itself. This caused the development of both things to slow down tremendously. So next time they had to do something like this, they worked on the game engine first, and once it was good enough, they started working on the game itself. This however caused them to go for many years without a new game, and so Half-Life Alyx was released in 2020, 12.5 years after the previous game from the series. Now, Axolot is not Valve, and Axolot can't afford to do something like this, so they essentially have no other option than to do both at the same time. There is however good news in all of this, as Axolot said in the Q&A that they were really happy with the state of their engine and development tools, and that the development of new content is going way faster than it did previously. What this essentially means is that while the first 50% of Chapter 2 took a long time, the second half of it should go way quicker than the development of the game ever has gone before. The next devlog should also come out, quote, hopefully soon. It will feature underground digging for the first time and is said to be a pretty exciting thing in general. Axolot also hopes that future devlogs will be able to show better the amount of things they're working on, so that the development doesn't feel as slow as it used to. They also explained why they are usually so inactive, and that is because they need to focus on internal deadlines. They said they will do their best to be more active during times like this though. Axolot also said that they are not in development hell like it may sometimes seem, which is something I'm really glad to hear. This Q&A is also not a replacement for a devlog, and is instead an additional thing that they decided to do, which by the way, thank you so much for this Axolot. This was a great move in my opinion. We also got to know Axolot's favorite sandwich toppings, and those are of course the ones found in the Revival Baguette. So tasty. If you want to read the Q&A in more detail, the link is in the description. Subscribe so you don't miss the next Scrap News episode, and I hope to see you in another one. Bye!